everyone, Alex here. Thank you again for watching my vlog. This is number 3 in the series of myths about emotions. So today I'm going to be talking about a myth that's pretty common. People talk to me about it quite a lot and I really understand it myself. This myth is that emotions can happen for no reason. Okay? It's a pretty common belief. People often say to me in sessions, oh, well, I just felt really bad yesterday and I have no idea why. There was no trigger, just came out of the blue. And they sort of describe this belief that their emotions are just totally out of control. There's no rhyme or reason to them and they're just totally irrational, right? Makes no sense. And so when we explore that, it's really important to understand that that's actually a false belief, right? The belief that emotions happen for no reason just isn't backed up by psychology or psychiatry or anything like that. When we dig down, when we really get good at paying attention and increasing our awareness, we start to notice that actually there's always a trigger. The trick is that sometimes the trigger is really obvious and sometimes it's really sneaky. And it's those sneaky triggers that are really difficult to pinpoint. But again, if we start to understand what they can be and we start to increase our awareness to them, then it starts to make sense. Now, why would this myth be important to dispel, right? The main reason is if I'm believing that my emotions happen for no reason, then I'm going to feel pretty helpless, right? I'm going to feel like a passenger and my emotions are just running the show. And I might also start to believe that my emotions are wrong, right? When actually, when we really dig deep down and we get to understand what our emotions are doing, sometimes they're trying to help us, right? And if we just think that they're happening for no reason, we can miss the messages. If you haven't already, go back and watch some of my videos about different emotions where I talk about the purpose of emotions. So some of my vlogs are, there's one on fear and there's one on hurt and things like that. And each of them talks about why we have those unpleasant emotions and that sometimes they can be really, really helpful. So we want to listen to them. But if, we have no idea even what's showing up or why it's showing up, then we're not going to get the message. So, what are the obvious triggers for emotions? And when I say trigger, by the way, what I mean is that something that occurs directly before the emotion, okay? So, the most obvious type of triggers for emotions are events. Something happens, right? And it's obvious, it's an external trigger, it happens outside of ourselves, and it's usually pretty easy. We're like, oh, that happened, and then I felt that. Okay. Sneaky triggers, all right? Interpretations. So the meaning we put to things, right? So if somebody gives me kind of a funny look, the meaning I put to that can be a trigger for certain emotions. If I make that mean they're judging me, I'm ugly, everyone's going to judge me, then I'm going to have a pretty strong, unpleasant emotional response and maybe urge to run away, right? But, oh, my light's gone out. Sorry, bad lighting for the rest of this video. Yeah, the interpretation is the trigger. All that's happened is that person's given me a funny look, but it's my interpretation of it that's actually triggered the emotion. If I was to think something different, if I was to say, oh, well, maybe they're looking at someone behind me, or maybe they're just, having a bad day or thinking about something bad, I'm not going to have that same trigger. All right. So interpretations, the thought process, the meaning we put to things can be a trigger. Other sneaky triggers, biology, right? So I've talked in previous vlogs about the link between physical and mental health, and the two are totally interconnected. We can't separate them. So sometimes something's happening biologically in our body, something's happening physically that's a trigger for us. If I haven't slept well last night, if I drank too much on the weekend, if I haven't taken my medication, if I am sick, like with a cold or a flu or something, or if I'm over or under exercising, if I'm over or under eating, these are going to be potential triggers. So pay attention to that stuff, right? So maybe ask ourselves, what's been happening with my physical body in the last, 24 hours, whenever it is, that might account for this. And the final sneaky trigger I'm going to mention is past experiences. So, this is particularly relevant when we've had maybe past trauma or unpleasant experiences. And what happens is that some situation reminds us of a previous situation that was really unpleasant. So, it's the memory that kind of gets triggered and triggers that distress. And if we notice that, we might want to practice some skills around coming back to the present moment and things like that. But again, sneaky triggers. So I want you to kind of ponder on this. Let me know what you think. It's kind of a controversial one. It sometimes takes people a little while to kind of agree or get on my side with this to say, all right, maybe there is always a reason for an emotion. It's just that it can sometimes be hidden and not so obvious. And the great news is, if we get really good at being able to notice the triggers for our emotions, then it's much easier for us to know how to manage that, what skills to use to deal with that particular trigger. All right, guys, as always, any questions, let me know. I'll get my light fixed, put in a new battery for next time. I'll see you later. Bye.